Welcome to Intimacy Play, a podcast by Pleasy. We host open discussions with world-leading experts on couples, sex, and intimacy, so you can build a more exciting, fun, and intimate relationship. I'm your host, Mikaela Silva.
Hi, everyone. Today we have an amazing guest with us. We have David Chambers. David is a men's dating and intimacy coach and a host of the Authentic Man podcast. How are you, David?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. I love your voice, by the way.
Thank you.
So, David, what inspired you to help coach men on the healthy aspects of masculinity and male sexuality?
I guess it's coming out of my own journey. If I go back maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I was struggling in my dating life, but I also had quite a dysfunctional sex life. I wouldn't say dysfunctional, but I was just seeking sex for validation a lot. You know, as a lot of men do, we think that the more sex we have, the more of a man we will be. And even if we don't think that consciously, there's a subconscious messaging that we have for ourselves that it's like, if I sleep with more women, then I will be more of a man and other men will think I'm good and I will think I'm good. And it kind of came to a head at a point where I just realized how empty it was making me feel. You know, it was all very meaningless. It was very empty. It was, it had some great stories, but ultimately when I was sitting at home alone, in evenings I was alone and I was feeling lonely. And these short relationships, again, as much as they were fun in the moment, they were not fulfilling my soul. They were not giving me the sort of intimacy that I longed for. So I guess I went on a lot of a journey, like many of us do, of like learning and like looking into my own relationship with relationships and my relationship with being a man, especially, and also my relationship to sex. And I started to see that a lot of this stuff was quite dysfunctional and wasn't giving me what I needed. So in the last few years, I've done a lot of work around Tantra, conscious relating, conscious relationships, open relationships, and also a lot of emotional work to see where my trauma lies and where my wounds are and how I can start to heal that stuff and actually communicate from a point of view and place where of my truth and what I really want and how I really want to love someone and how I really want my relationships to be. And it kind of almost stumbled into teaching that to men as well, just throughout of, creating the podcast and then a few people asking for coaching and just seeing the difference my coaching was making to people. So I kind of kept expanding into events and so forth.
Very interesting. But how did you do that transition? So going from feeling a little bit lost and not happy with the way that you were approaching your own sexuality and intimacy and ending up actually teaching other people how to discover that facet of them?
I think there's a moment, a real turning point in my life was I was in Bolivia. I was in 2016. I'd been traveling with my then girlfriend for about a year and we broke up. And it all kind of come to head because I wasn't able to really share what I was feeling and what I needed and what I wanted. My big fear was that I would upset her. And that was I couldn't upset her. In my mind, it was like, I can't upset her. If I upset her, then I'm a bad man, that I'm wrong, that I'm useless, all these things. And then we ended up breaking up, which upset her massively and upset me. And I was lying in a bed crying in a place called Sucre in Bolivia. And I was like, I can't do this again. I don't want to do this again. So after that, I just put myself into connecting with people just like really openly. And as I did, the more I was open about who I was and so forth, the more I deeply connected with people. And then after some time being back home, I came back maybe in 9 months or so after that, I just started to get more into learning about Tantra, and the art of Tantra and connection and the presence and the real intimacy. And I started to see that men don't have this. We don't have these tools. We are not taught that it's actually good to be open-hearted, to actually deeply connect with the women or the men that we're with. So I started to do talks. I started to speak. People wanted to listen and, people found it was really useful and helpful to them. So I started to create workshops and coaching programs out of that. So it just all very organically kind of flowed. And I guess I'd always had a real interest in sex. Even from a young age, I'd almost like study. I have books about sex. I have books about intimacy. And I bought these long before I was coaching because I was interested in how we as human beings come together sexually and relationally. So it just felt a really natural transition for me to move into coaching and teaching.
I love that. It makes total sense. And, you also use your own journey to help other couples. You've touched more than once on tantric sex. Can you explain what tantric sex is in your view?
That's an interesting question, eh? Because so I see tantra as a I don't want to call it a discipline, as a path. We'll call it a path. Tantra is a path. Um, as a path, it's about building awareness of yourself, your true self, and what is around you. So I guess tantric sex is about bringing that level of awareness into our sexual relations. Because it's often with sex, especially couples and so forth, what's really lacking is actual focused awareness on themselves, their bodies, their sensation, their pleasure, and the same in their partner. Like, what's your partner feeling? What's going on in their minds? We are so often so caught up with our fears and our worries and our concerns when we're having sex that we're actually not really there. We are there physically, but our mind is somewhere else completely. Our mind is off in the future, worrying about what happened at the end. And for a lot of men, that's worrying about coming too quickly, not pleasuring the woman they're with or the partner they're with. Or we are so kind of in the past, in our past fears and worries, that we're not really there in the present moment. So a lot about tantric sex is bringing you deeply into this present moment, deeply into feeling the sensations and energy in your body, but also those of your partner, being like completely and fully present and aware to the two of you and the magic that you're creating in that moment.
I fully understand what you're saying because I do struggle sometimes, usually not during sex, but that has happened as well. Just thinking about other things because we are worried because our lives are full of stuff. So how do you actually, get to a point where you can forget almost everything that's around you and just focus on that moment?
Yeah, yeah. And it's when we talk about tantric sex, it's actually I say magic because I can say the word magic and it can be very tangible or normal to me. I'm not imagining some sort of wizard, but actually there's a lot of processes and procedures you can go through to, let go of the day. When you can enter into your sexual interaction consciously, and you can consciously go, okay, we're gonna make love tonight, and we're gonna let go of the day. It might be a meditation, it might be some breath work, it might be just slowly moving into intercourse through touching, through conscious touch, where we are touching someone completely aware of our sensations and the sensation of touching them and our body, and being really focused on our body, because we can slowly basically let go of all our fears and worries and bring ourselves into the present moment of what's happening, so that when we actually come to foreplay or to penetration, our minds are completely in the here and now and with our partner, but we also can feel the kind of energy that's running between two people, the polarity, you might say, because we've done the work beforehand to clear out the mind, to release stress, to kind of release our fears and our concerns, and done the work to bring ourselves completely kind of in union with our body and the present moment.
When you're talking about meditation, I was silently laughing because I can't do it. All of these thoughts come rushing into my mind, and the whole time I'm thinking, don't think, don't think, stop thinking. Why are you thinking? Okay, now I've stopped thinking. And maybe like a millisecond afterwards, oh, I wasn't thinking. So, is there like a trick to actually switch it off? Because I understand the part of focusing on the touch, I do. And sometimes I can, fully get there. Other times it's like 90%, other times it's 20%, depending obviously on the day and on my stress levels. But is there like 2 or 3 tips that are not meditation, at least not for me, that might work to, help switch off?
Yeah. The first one is actually to shift how we see meditation. One of the biggest misconceptions in the Western world about meditation is that you are only in a meditative state if your mind is completely clear and you're thoughtless. And as far as I've read, it's impossible for our minds to be in that state. We're always thinking about something. So the key to, especially if you're starting off with meditation, is learn to just observe your thoughts. They're going to happen. You're going to think things, and it's okay. And meditation isn't a process of thinking nothing. Meditation is a process of taking a little step back from our thoughts and not being our thoughts, and seeing them and observing them. And, it's like when you, a really good analogy that I got from an app that I often use for meditation is that you're sitting down and you're watching the road. You're watching cars go by on the road. Now, you don't suddenly when you're watching these cars, identify as the cars. You just watch them. You just observe them going by. So let's take that same stance with our own thoughts and just observe them come and go. You know, maybe you're sitting there and you're thinking, I've got a shopping list to do. And you go, yeah, got a shopping list to do. Okay, that thought's gone. Because our normal way of being with our thoughts is, I've got a shopping list to do. Oh, what do I need to add to the shopping list? Oh God, I better not forget that. And we get completely entangled in our thoughts. Mm-hmm. Whereas when we allow them just to pass by, you'd be surprised how they kind of lessen, and the impact, your reactivity to them dampens. And the key often when it comes to meditation, when we're involved in tantric sex, is actually just to let go of them and let them pass us by, and to focus on what we want to focus on, right? Which might be the breath. It might be our partner. You know, it might even be, there's a particular meditation that I love to do with my partners, where we focus on the love that we have for one another, so that we drop back out of this, you know, fear and worry, and we bring up, you know, maybe beautiful moments, maybe the first time we met, you know, whatever it is that works for you, is bring up the love that you have for your partner, and you focus on that. Because when you're focused on something, you know, as powerful as the love and care that we have for our partners, we're able to tune out of a lot of the other things. So, you know, remembering that meditation is a singular focus exercise and not an exercise of no focus.
Okay, you've given me so many interesting tips. I'll let you know how they work. Going a little bit back into Tantra, you know, what elements of Tantra do you think can help improve someone's confidence, as well as helping them understand their sexuality more?
I think what comes to mind actually is, for confidence, is relaxation. One of the reasons why we lack confidence often, right, is because we think there is a goal that we need to get to, and we don't know how to get there, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I work with a lot of men on this. Sexual confidence is something that I do a lot of work with guys. And I'll give the example, for instance, for a lot of men, their concern is around pleasing their partners and lasting long enough and being hard enough, actually. Those are probably the three things that men worry about, right? So inside of Tantra is actually a level of learning to feel a lot more, feel our bodies, but also feel our partners through being present, right? So we learn through that to feel what our partners are feeling. So we have more of an idea what they're enjoying and not enjoying, right? But also, Tantra does also include communication, you know, talking about sex, whether it be afterwards or even before. And, you know, setting an intention maybe for your lovemaking, right? So when we have an idea like, oh, maybe your partner just wants to feel relaxed and loved, and you go, okay, cool. Like, what does that look like for you? And he explains that to you. Instantly, then you have confidence because you know what needs to be doing. You've asked the questions, you've spoken about it, right? So again, that can remove some fear away from and bring more confidence. And then in terms of lasting longer, now this is a big one for men. I think this is probably one of the biggest issues that a lot of men face or worry about. Not even necessarily that it's a real issue. We have a lot of, what I say, assumptions about how long a man should last.
Yes.
And how, you know, and I know from studies that I've read, and I quote these often, it's like the average length of intercourse, or for a man going from kind of starting sex to ejaculation, is like 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes, I think. But when you poll people and you ask people, I do this in my workshops a lot, is ask people, and they're like, no, 20, 25, 30 minutes. And you're like, no, that's not realistic. So slowing down is one of the most transformative experiences you can create when having sex, right? And it's a big part of Tantra, because when we're slowing down, we're more present. You know, we're more present in the moment. We do action slowly instead of running around, you know, because we're used to that in our day, running around, thinking about things constantly, thinking here. I need to do this, I need to do that. And we're not actually present. So when we slow down and we move slowly and consciously, especially for a man, he becomes more aware of himself and his body and his arousal rates as well. And this means that he can regulate himself in this zone, what's often known as, you know, anything that's below the point of no return, right? So if you've learned to feel into your body and be like, okay, I'm getting close to the point of no return, I'm going to slow down. So I stay below that, so I can feel confident and stay in this zone of pleasure, but also in this zone of feeling comfortable and relaxed. Then this concern about, you know, coming too quickly or ejaculating too fast starts to disappear, because we've got more control, we've got more presence, we know where our body's going. Whereas when we go very quickly, which is often, I joke as like, you know, men going like jackhammers as soon as like the penetration starts, right? Because as if it's a competition to go as hard, as fast as they can, right? Forgetting that that's not the end goal.
Yeah.
When we slow down and we stay present to what we're feeling, we stay below our point of no return, but also we allow our partner to also be really present to their sensations, to their feelings, right? To the subtle feelings and sensations there. So again, instantly now we've removed a lot of the concerns, right? Around confidence, lasting long enough and being hard enough. And I guess being hard enough is one we haven't tackled yet. And we slow down and we're more present. So the last one around being hard enough is there's various exercises that are recommended within the tantric community around things like pelvic floor exercises, around non-ejaculation and semen retention, but also yoga and various breathwork exercises to help with this. Because remember, the penis is an organ, right? And it has blood flow. And there's a lot of health things we need to keep in order in our bodies to make sure enough blood is going to that area. And for a lot of men, we have naturally very tight hips, which inhibits the blood flow to our penises. So there's various exercises, very practical things that you learn within Tantra to ensure that, you know, we've looked after that third concern.
Wow, you've given so much insight into not only the problems that you usually encounter, and when I mean problems, I should say concerns, and above all, how to help men to overcome these concerns. And where do you think that the fear of not being able to fulfill the partner's sex desire comes from for most men?
Well, you know, I think it goes really deep, to be honest, back to some of our childhood experiences of being with women, being with our mothers. You know, we see a lot of men are seeking approval, right? And our first experience of a woman is our mother. And it's like at some point, every man feels the disapproval of his mother. So he wants to be approved of. He wants to do well, right? So we bring this into the rest of our life, right? So we bring the same thing into sex, and sex is a very raw experience because it's just you and the person you're with. And if you're sleeping with women, it's like, I need to fulfill her needs. But there's also this idea that as we men carry is a very masculine thing, is that I should know how. Without anyone telling me how to do something, I'm a man, I should know how, right? Even if we don't consciously realize this, there's this subconscious idea, which is rubbish, right? Because how would we know how to please someone if we've never spoken to them about it, right? Okay, there's some level of experience that brings you to be able to, you know, guess to a certain degree and also have an idea, because, you know, women are not all the same, but there are some similarities across some of them, right? But ultimately, a man doesn't know. He won't know, but we still have this idea that we should know. So the fear comes up is like, I can't ask. I can't communicate. I don't know, because then I'll be seen as lesser than. I'll be seen as being not a good man. And I don't want to bring myself back to that experience of being disapproved of that I experienced early in my life.
Yes, I completely understand, and it makes sense to me. But above all, because I love to focus on the positive sides, what should men be focusing on to improve their own perception that their performance is better? Because I don't think this is a matter of saying, you know, this is a scale, this is what means to perform well, but we all evaluate ourselves, or at least I believe so. So how can a man be confident enough with their performance, if we can call it that way, maybe, you know, to be happy with what they're doing?
All right. So I think communication is a really, really key part here, right? Communicating your desires, your wants, your expectations, and your needs, right? And also hearing that of your partner, inviting your partner to discuss these things with you. Because as soon as we bring out these things into the open, we bring them into the light, then we're both on the same page. You understand. You're like, oh, you really like that thing. Yes. Oh, you'd like to have sex very slowly. Oh, you don't even want to have penetration tonight. Great. Okay, cool. I can, you know, that sounds good. Or maybe there's a discussion or even a negotiation, right? So just and then you set the bounds of, again, I'm not a big fan of the word performance because I don't feel like sex is a performance. I think it's a very troublesome.
I agree.
Yeah, but it's very hard to find another word for it. An act, a pleasurable experience.
Good. Yeah. Love
to
it.
bring that a pleasure experience for both people. is to communicate one's wants and needs, right? Bring it out into the open without shame, and knowing that asking, getting feedback is not a sign of inadequacy, right? It's actually a sign of power, right? Powerful people ask questions. They admit when they don't know, because through not knowing, we learn because we ask a question. It's a bit like young kids will ask question after question after question because they're not ashamed of not knowing. They're okay with not knowing because they know, if I don't know and I ask a question, I'm going to learn something here. And when I learn something new, I expand. My capability expands. My capacity expands. And also when we communicate in this way, we connect more deeply with our partners, right? Because we feel seen, we feel heard, we feel listened to. And I know from men and women I work with, right, that those things are so, so important, to be seen, heard, and understood.
And how easy do you think it is to find the right balance? What I mean with this is, so if I express to my partner what I want and what I need, and if they express the same, how easy or how difficult it is to get the balance right of, what I want, what he wants, and what he needs, and what he doesn't need.
Yeah. This is an age-old question, right? Because we're always trying to find harmony, in our sexual experiences, where we're all trying to have our needs fulfilled, to be honest, right?
Of course.
So I think there's a give and take, and that's why sometimes sex is a negotiation, because sometimes it might be, I'd really like to have sex tonight. I don't really want to. Okay. Well, I'd just really like to maybe give you a massage. Would you like that? I could be with a massage. Okay, cool. How about if I was to massage, your breasts and your genitalia? I don't know. I don't know about that. But maybe when you get to that point, you ask me again and see how I feel. And you see where we have seen where we can negotiate, we can find a middle ground, right? It's again inside the communication. But I think there's also, and this is maybe sometimes quite an advanced concept I work with guys, is like learning to feel your partner that you're with, the person you're with, through sound, through movement, through, eyes, through temperature, all these things, breath as well. Breath is a very important one. All these things give indications of enjoyment or lack of enjoyment. And and this is where presence and awareness comes in. It's like when you're really in that moment and you're touching someone, maybe you're just touching them on the arm, and you just see the lightest movement of the head that maybe is going up, and you can see this, a pleasurable movement. You don't necessarily need to ask them, are you enjoying this? Because you can see with your eyes and your ears and the breath that there's an enjoyment that's being had there, right? So it's a case of just, learning to do that, as well as the obvious and direct communication.
Do you think that, the type of touch that you were talking about and the type of things that you don't need really to ask because you can feel, do you think that a tantric massage can work and it can help? I know you've done in the past workshops of tantric massages. Why do you think they're good and that men and women should focus on them?
I'm a big fan of massage, actually, as a gateway to learn about how we like to be touched, how we like to touch other people, but also around giving and receiving. One of the things I see a lot with people I work with is a struggle to receive. We often have a bit of an issue with just receiving fully, just receiving touch completely, just lying and surrendering to being touched with love and care. Because a lot around tantric massage, I think there's a big misconception that it's a kind of sexual act, and it's all about, because there's a lot of tantric massage services, so we say, that are offered often in London, I know of, and which aren't really tantric massages, because the true tantric massage is about really being a channel for love from the person massaging to the person being massaged, and giving that to that person constantly. It's not necessarily a sexual act, but it's about really transmitting love into their body to allow them to relax, to surrender into the touch. So I'm a big fan of it, because we learn how to touch, because I think one of the biggest things that's missing in men, I say for men because I work with a lot of men, is like a varying understanding of how to touch, from soft and light to more firm, to even that kind of, there's a kind of sweet spot in the middle where you're pressing enough that the skin goes down, but not enough that it really feels like any real pressure, or using different parts of the hand. And all these things kind of come into the tantric massage, where it's like an education of touch, but it's also for the person being massaged, they find that they're being touched in parts of their bodies that they're not used to being touched in. And they start to realize, oh, wow, that feels amazing. I love this new thing. Today I really like that. So it's this constant exploration and learning that we kind of go through for a tantric massage.
What are you exploring about, tantric massages not being sexual, but being more about love?
Mm.
Do you think it's fair to say that a sexual experience can be better if there's like a genuine connection rather than just being, about sex?
Yes, I believe from my real personal experience that when we have a connection, whether that be, it can be, I feel like physical is the kind of the lowest level of connection to a degree. And then we have mental, I think after that, then we have emotional, and then we have like a spiritual connection with someone where we feel just, you've met people where you just feel really drawn to them.
Mm-hmm.
You feel drawn to them, and you start in conversation, and conversation just flows so beautifully. There's commonalities of experience and understanding. You speak truths that you've never said to anyone. You share things emotionally and from a point of view that you might have never shared in that way with someone you've known for 2 hours. And I call that like a connection that transcends the emotional, the mental, and the physical, right, into kind of the spiritual. And you're even unsure of why you feel this way. So when we have more of a connection with someone, sex becomes better because we actually often feel safer with this person. I think safety is one of the things that we don't talk about in sex enough, right? And again, it's something I really go on with men about a lot, right? Because we don't even realize that we're not creating safety. But when we create safety, because intimacy ultimately is a process of safety, it's feeling safe, whether that to be share thoughts, ideas, emotions, our physical bodies, our spiritual beliefs with someone. So when we have all those things, we feel safe, we can relax. And when we're safe, we can relax, we feel held, and our bodies don't need to be on alert for anything bad happening. They can relax. And when we're relaxed, we feel more pleasure and we feel more connection.
Yes, I'm feeling the vibe completely. I was thinking, going back into the experience that you have coaching men, if I were in a workshop that you give, what are the tips and tricks that you give for men to, focus more on their feelings at that, at every single time that they're with their partner? I'm not going to say sex act, because it can be a lot of different things. It can be a massage as well. What advices would you give for men to be more present and more focused on things other than penetration and orgasm as an end goal?
Yeah. I'm going to throw in something that might seem completely outside of this, actually. One of the things is journaling. Actually, I really recommend to guys is to journal, right? And I know this is completely outside. And the reason why is because it's a really great way of emptying the thoughts and ideas and the fears and worries we have from our brains onto paper. And a lot of the time people's fears is, if I write this down, it becomes more real. Someone might see it, all these things. You can burn the paper afterwards, right? But journaling, it's really helped me over the years. It's like emptying my thoughts and ideas onto a piece of paper, seeing how ridiculous they are most of the time, right? Our fears and our worries and our concerns. And then you just put it to one side, because then you've on paper, it's kind of actualized, it's real, we can see it. When it's in our brain, in our mind, it kind of swirls around, becomes bigger than it really is. So it means that when we come into intimacy, our minds are a lot more calm, a lot more relaxed. Meditation is one thing that I highly recommend to men if you want to be more present. Anything from 10 minutes up to an hour, depending, what works for you, where you are in life. I would say that breath work is a very, very good thing, especially for couples. I recommend doing synchronized breath work exercises where you're breathing together, like inhaling together and exhaling together, or you are alternately. So one will be inhaling while the other one's exhaling. This brings us into synchronicity with each other, because we have to consciously looking at our partner, feeling them, being like, oh, they're breathing, I need to go. And it brings us more into the present moment with the person we're with our partners. That's probably two things. This might sound dance, movement, because the problem is we're always in our heads. We spend our time processing and strategizing all the time. So when we come to, sex, lovemaking, connection, right? We treat it the same. I do a lot of work with people in dating, and they want to go on dates and they want to strategize the whole date. And I say, no, you need to learn that your body has this incredible wisdom, right? There are more pathways going from the body up to the brain than going in the opposite direction. So your body knows stuff, right? So it's getting out of our heads and feeling our bodies a bit more. And it gets us into this place where we're just a lot more present when we're feeling our bodies. Because then when we are interacting, we're there in the moment, we're in the place, we're there, our brains, our eyes are open to everything that's happening instead of being really focused on our minds, fears, worries, and concerns. So there are kind of three things. There's some other stuff that I do with men and couples around, again, tuning into the love that you have for each other. That's a really important thing. There's some kind of conscious touching exercises that are really important, really good. And when you layer all these you can do these all before you even get into the bedroom. And there's even some great kissing exercises you can do to again, bring aliveness to the lips, but also bring you deeply present to the moment.
When you were talking about breath work, I was listening to, I was imagining doing that with my partner, just sitting on a bed, breathing, looking at him looking at me. And then all of a sudden in my mind, we started laughing. So how do you keep it from not being goofy, or is being goofy okay as well?
Yeah, it's okay. And the thing is it's almost acknowledging, and this is the big part of a lot of life, is just acknowledging what's there. Acknowledging that this is weird, or this is funny, or this is strange. Why are we doing this breathing thing? And what it is that's making us laugh is there's an uncomfortability in that moment, right? In that moment, we are uncomfortable about something. Maybe we feel stupid. Maybe we feel weird. Maybe we think our partners think we're stupid. There's some sort of uncomfortability and judgment. But when we can just go, oh yeah, that's there. That's okay. It just disappears. That uncomfortability is like, oh yeah, I feel weird, uncomfortable doing this because I think this is weird or silly. Or sometimes you'll have a partner that's like, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. This isn't going to do anything for us, right? Again, that reaction is all about their uncomfortability, right? The judgment they have. When we just acknowledge that and go, look, that's there. There's that. That's there. That's okay. But let's still do this because we want to do this. And you go back to that because you can go back to, this is what I say to a lot of couples is, go back to why you're doing this. Why are you doing this? You want to have deeper sexual experiences. You want to feel more connected to your beloved, right? And I often talk about partner, beloved, and I don't necessarily mean it has to be a long-term partner. This could be someone you met 3 hours ago, but you still have this willingness to want to connect, to share a loving moment with someone. And when you go back to that feeling, to that desire, right, you'll find that a lot of these uncomfortabilities disappear because you've got something so much higher to focus on.
I keep seeing, my partner's face in my head, looking at me weirdly like, what the hell are you making me do? You and your podcast and your intimacy play, what are you making me do? But yeah, let's try it. So I'm going to try it. I'm not going to tell him what I think is going to happen because that's going to ruin everything. And I'm very curious about his reaction, and I'll let you know. How does that sound?
Oh, no, I love that. It's also a great way to relax as well. It's a really good relaxing way to breathing. Like if you've tried breath work, I've done a lot of breath work in the last couple of years.
I think we'll just relax by laughing because I'm into, trying to meditate. I'm not going to say meditate, but trying to, and being more in tune with my body and my feelings and my thoughts. He's more practical. Well, I'm from marketing. I'm more like creative. He's more financial. So it's like different perspectives on things. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to understand his perspective on, just looking at me thinking, you're crazy. But yeah, I don't mind. Let's try it.
That's a beautiful way to go into things.
Yeah, it is. It is for sure. So a question that I love to make to all our guests is, how do you keep your relationship open, exciting, and intimate?
Yeah, it's a big job, eh? It's a big job. I think one of the first things I say is you have to make it a priority. Don't expect it to just magically happen on its own. Like anything, we always schedule in the things that are important in our life, right? We had this, podcast recording schedules in my diary. You want to go to the gym, you schedule it in maybe, or you got a class you want to go to, schedule it in. You're going for dinner, you book a table. You book a table weeks and months in advance. How often do you think about booking in time for intimacy and connection with your partner? Is it important to you? Yeah. Out of 10, how important is it? It's probably pretty important. So start considering doing that. right? Also, talk about the things you'd like to try. Talk about the things you'd like to try. Have conversations where you say, there's no judgment here. We're going to remove judgment. We're just going to put some things on the table. A sex menu is a really interesting thing to create, right? Individually, where you think of, various types of sex, sexual acts, sex places to have sex, and you just write them out in a couple of lists. What I often recommend for people. There's a list of stuff that you just don't want to do. I never want to do that. The list of stuff that you might be open to trying, right? A list of stuff that you'd like to try, and maybe a list of stuff that you want to do often. And you have these things and you just write them out. And they could be all sorts of things. It might be having sex in the forest. There might be things like, going to a sex party, or, having webcam sex with another couple, whatever it may be. Have these things on a list and sit down and swap your menus. And this is where you learn, because you'll suddenly be like, oh, wow, there's all this stuff. I didn't know you want to do that. Oh, there's this thing you're open to. Oh my God, I'd love to do that. Oh, that didn't even come into my mind. And suddenly you've just opened up all this conversation, right? You've opened up so much conversation through just doing that. And I know what comes up for people when they think about this is this fear, this worry, this concern. Oh, what happens if I put down, I'd like to have a threesome, and my partner says she doesn't want to do that, or he doesn't want to do that. What do I do? You just go, cool, they'd like to do that. I don't want to. Is there something that's maybe a step in that direction that we'd both be willing to do? Like something a bit closer. And if it's not something that's really important to you, then you just go, well, that goes into the bucket of stuff we probably won't do anytime soon, right? It's okay to want different things. It doesn't mean your relationship is going to fall apart because you want different things. Like a good example for me is that my partner, she quite likes, BDSM and rope playing, things like that. It's not really my jam. It's not really my thing. Have we tried it together? Yes, because I really respect that it's something she would love, and it's not something I've tried much of. So I've said, okay, how can we do this in a way that I feel safe, you feel safe? So we've tried various things around floggers and paddles and things like that. And it's like, I've learned something new. I've learned some new ways in which I like to operate in a sexual situation. So that's beautiful for me to learn something new. And she's also learned new things about us being together, and we've been able to connect in different ways. So it's a lot about learning, going out your way to learn, whether that be workshops, podcasts, even coaches, and, even investigating sex shops and things like that together. But it's also having the bravery to go, these are some of the things I'd like to try. These are things I could be open to as well.
No, yeah, I completely understand what you're saying, because sometimes you think something is, I'm not really into it, but then you find a way, or you find like a slightly different version of that you actually enjoy. So I love what you said in the example that you were willing to share with us. Thank you for that. David, where can everybody find you and all this great advice?
The best place to find me is on Instagram. I do a lot of posting on Instagram. So it's at @theauthenticman_ on Instagram. And I've just finished off my website as well. So on there, it's just the www.theauthenticman.net. So you can find all there. I've got blog posts. I've got my events are up there as well. And I'm usually running events, throughout the year. Usually every month there's something coming up, and there's plenty of like men's work there, couples work as well that I'd be running.
And what about your awesome podcast?
Oh yeah, sorry, God, I forget about this. Yes, my podcast as well. I'm not good at this plugging stuff. My podcast is about, as we speak now, is almost 90 episodes around various things that affect men, especially around kind of dating, intimacy, emotional awareness is a big one, and everything in between. I just put out some episodes about how men can be more attractive, stuff around relationships, fear of being in relationships, avoidant relationships. There's all sorts of advice and stuff around that.
The Authentic Man podcast with David Chambers.
Yeah, that's the one.
Perfect. David, I've loved our conversation. Although I'm not a man, I did take so many interesting things to try on my own relationship. But above all, sometimes it's just a matter of perspective. So thank you so much. You've been an awesome guest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that was Intimacy Play. We hope you enjoyed it. To find out more about Pleasy and how we can take your relationship to the next level, visit pleasyplay.com. Then also make sure to search for Intimacy Play in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Pleasy, thank you for listening.